The moment she leaned over my desk, I forgot every word I had been about to say. Not because anything dramatic had happened, but because after months of quietly admiring her from across our office in Chicago, Illinois, I suddenly found myself completely unable to concentrate. Hannah had a folder in her hand and a worried expression on her face, yet when she noticed me staring blankly at the screen, she gave a playful grin and asked if I was distracted. I laughed awkwardly and looked back at my computer, pretending the spreadsheet had suddenly become the most fascinating thing in the world. What she didn't know was that my distraction wasn't really about her. It was about everything I had been trying to hide behind that computer screen. If you believe kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances can change someone's life, take a moment to like this story, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Sometimes a small act of kindness reaches a person at exactly the moment they need it most. My name is Caleb, and at 27, I had become very good at appearing fine. I arrived at work early, answered emails, completed reports, smiled during meetings, and went home before anyone could ask personal questions. 6 months earlier, my father had passed away unexpectedly, and the loss had changed the rhythm of my entire life. My mother, Ruth, was struggling with the grief too, and I spent most evenings helping her with errands and sitting quietly at her kitchen table while old family photographs covered the room around us. At work, I told everyone I was doing okay. The truth was that I was exhausted from pretending. Hannah noticed things other people missed. She worked 2 desks away in the same department, and she had a strange talent for remembering little details. She knew when someone had skipped lunch. She noticed when the office plants needed water. She once left a cup of coffee beside my keyboard after hearing me mention that I had stayed late the previous evening. I never told her how much that tiny gesture meant to me. Instead, I thanked her and buried myself deeper into work. One Monday morning, our manager announced that the company had received a major contract, and our team had 3 weeks to prepare an important presentation. I was assigned the financial section, while Hannah was responsible for the visual presentation. For the first few days, we worked side by side, exchanging notes and correcting mistakes. Slowly, something changed. I began speaking more. She began asking questions that had nothing to do with spreadsheets. And for the first time in months, I found myself looking forward to going to work. Then came the afternoon when she leaned over my desk. She had discovered an error in one of my charts and wanted to show me where the numbers didn't match. She pointed toward the screen while I stared at the figures without understanding any of them. When she noticed my expression, she smiled and asked if I was distracted. I finally admitted that I had been having a difficult few months and that concentrating hadn't been easy. Her playful expression disappeared, replaced by genuine concern. She didn't push me for details. Instead, she simply told me that I didn't have to pretend to be okay every minute of every day. Those words stayed with me long after she returned to her desk. The next evening, something unexpected happened. My mother called and told me she had found an old letter my father had written years earlier. She wanted me to come over and read it with her. I almost said no because of the presentation deadline, but Hannah happened to hear part of the conversation. She quietly reminded me that some moments mattered more than deadlines. So I went home. My mother and I sat at the kitchen table and read the letter together. It wasn't some grand speech. It was simply my father writing about how proud he was of our family and how he hoped we would continue taking care of one another. By the time we finished, my mother was crying, and I was too. But for the first time, those tears didn't feel like defeat. They felt like release. The following morning, I returned to work with a different attitude. I finished my section, helped Hannah with the presentation, and even joked with the team during lunch. When our presentation day arrived, everything went smoothly. We didn't win because everything was perfect. We succeeded because everyone trusted one another. Afterward, Hannah congratulated me and told me she was glad I had finally stopped carrying everything alone. I thanked her for noticing me when I had been trying so hard not to be noticed. A few weeks later, our team gathered for a small celebration. I realized something important that night. I had spent months thinking Hannah was the reason I felt happier at work, but she wasn't the solution to my sadness. She had simply reminded me that connection still existed. Healing had to come from within me, from my family, from faith, from friends, and from allowing myself to accept kindness instead of constantly pretending I didn't need it. Before everyone left, Hannah handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of our team from presentation day. On the back, she had written a simple message reminding me that difficult seasons don't last forever. I smiled and thanked her. There was no dramatic confession, no perfect movie ending, and no magical moment that erased the past. There was something better. Two people who had learned that kindness can quietly change the direction of someone's life. That evening, as I walked through the streets of Chicago beneath the golden glow of the city lights, I called my mother and told her I loved her. Then I looked up at the sky and whispered a thank you to my father. Sometimes the person who changes your life isn't the person who saves you. Sometimes they're simply the person who notices you're struggling and reminds you that you don't have to face everything alone. And sometimes, healing begins with something as ordinary as a smile across an office desk. If this story touched your heart, please support the video by liking it, sharing it, and subscribing. Your engagement may seem small, but it helps stories about kindness and hope reach people who might need them. Before you go, leave a comment telling me about one person whose kindness made a difficult time a little easier for you. Your words might become someone else's reminder that they are not alone. And remember, you never truly know what someone is carrying behind a smile. So whenever you can, choose kindness. It may be the smallest thing you do today, but to someone else, it could mean everything.